just in case y'all didn't get it, and maybe you didn't get it, all right? This is Kim Davis, and she is the National Hockey League's Senior Executive Vice President of Social Impact, right? This woman, she black. I think she's black. She look black. She is the National Hockey League Senior Executive Vice President of Social Impact. And that's who she is. This is from AP. The NHL's first internal demographic study conducted by Kim Davis found its workforce to be overwhelmingly white. This is the very first internal demographic study. White people, y'all hate it. Y'all are hated. She said this is the first step to fixing the program. I mean the problem, not program, the problem. Watch this.
I think the one area that we are feeling positive about is that 38% of our workforce are women. We've done a lot of work to improve in that area. And it's very consistent with our current female fan base of 40%. Having said that, we know we have work to do with women of color, and we're leaning into that. And we will take this benchmark every 2 years and measure our progress over time.
White folks, she getting rid of y'all. The NHL was just fine before she came along. She getting rid of y'all. Isn't that amazing? And what do y'all do? You're afraid of being called racist, so you do nothing. You hire. This is like putting the devil in charge of the hen house. Goodbye, NHL. National Hockey League. Goodbye. This woman will destroy it. Can we say Mommy Africa? Mommy Africa is alive and well in America now. And there is no turning back. Ain't no stopping me now. We're on the move. Isn't that something? In the United States of America, the white man's land. He's been being thrown out of his own land. And y'all keep hiring these hateful, mean, evil, nasty blacks and put them in charge of your country, of your businesses, of your communities, and look what you're getting. And it's going to get, as I said yesterday, it's going to get worse. And yesterday, in case you missed it, you can podcast it. In the first hour, I believe, we put together, yesterday opening of the show, I did a comparison of Mommy Africa and America today. It was deep. Make sure you check it out. JesseLeePeterson.com/show. Either y'all don't believe it, or you're so scared. I was just so scared that you can't do anything, or you think you can't do anything about it. And I have more proof. And then I get back to the callers. I think their phones, they're ready now with their phones. But I have more proof that it's only going to get worse in America. Some time back, I don't remember when exactly, but I read about this movie, either a documentary or a movie about Rwanda, and how due to fear and not speaking up, that one tribe of blacks attacked another tribe because they were jealous of them, and they were calling them all kinds of names and blah, blah, blah. And nobody stood up and said, no, that's not true. And because they didn't stand up and say, no, that's not true, they, I believe it was the Tutsis were wiped out, I believe. Was it the Tutsis, Nick, that were wiped out? Nick? No, Nick. Was it the Tutsis that were wiped out? Yeah. Thank you, Nick. The Tutsis were wiped out by the Hutus, whatever, those are black names, right? And the same thing has happened here in America. And so I talked about that movie that I read up on a couple months ago, I believe I mentioned it here on the show, because it was mind-blowing how one tribe of blacks totally wiped out another. I don't know about totally wiped them out, but really cut their heads off and just slaughtered them, raped the women, and did all kinds of things to another tribe of blacks. You don't hear a lot of talk about that, huh? Well, lo and behold, yesterday on Tucker Carlson's show, he talked about the same thing, and he laid it out in a fascinating way. I think Tucker may be watching the Jesse Lee Peterson show. He did an amazing job of it, and it reminded me of watching that movie a while back of what happened over in Rwanda, right? That is happening in America right now. It's just not to the degree that it happened over there yet, but it's growing into it because that's what evil does. That's what evil does. Evil will destroy you inside of you, and it will destroy you outside of you through others if you don't overcome it. And what's happening to white folks in America today and in the Western countries is evil. And they're replacing it with evil, with nothing but evil. Isn't that amazing? So just in case you missed it, I just want to give you a little bit of information about what happened in Rwanda, and maybe you can see for yourself it's happening in America now. In July of 1993, a radio station in Rwanda began openly attacking one of the country's main ethnic group, the Tutsis. This was back in 1993. A radio station in Rwanda began openly attacking. Isn't that happening to white folks today? Openly attacking one of the country's main ethnic groups, the Tutsis. And I can say, in America in 2022, it's been going on long in 2022, white people, by way of radio and TV and other ways, are openly being attacked. A main ethnic group in their own country. They're not in Africa. That's here in America. White man's land. This is from Peace Works. Watch and listen. Here we go.
20 years ago this year, there was a genocide in Rwanda. The Hutu majority, who controlled the government, set out to kill off the Tutsi, who made up less than 20% of the population. Roughly 70% of the Tutsi were killed, almost 1 million people.
Something like 92% of people in Rwanda actually witnessed the genocide. They saw people being chopped up.
The role of the propaganda was huge. It's actually one of the steps of preparing a genocide.
You know, there are all kinds of other signs. The use of propaganda that was being used on the radio, where the Tutsi were referred to as cockroaches, and people would use euphemisms like "we are going to work" to mean "we are going to kill."
Isn't that amazing? Does that remind you of what's happening in America today to the whites? And primarily from the blacks, but not only liberal whites are doing it too, but primarily from the blacks. What do you think the outcome will be if you don't stand up and speak out against evil? What do you think the outcome going to be? Nine months after RTLM went on the air, a genocide began. More than 500,000 Tutsis were killed. And this was done, blacks killing other blacks. How often do you hear about that from the blacks in this country? You don't hear anything about that. Oh, but you hear about slavery. And then they don't tell you the truth about that. The fact that it was the Arabs who sold the blacks. They went and bought the blacks from other blacks in Mommy Africa. Isn't that amazing? How do you feel seeing this? So you heard about the one radio station over there and what they did, right? I want to give you an example of it happening right here, right now. This is MSNBC Today. Watch this.
This is literally what conservative white folks do when they don't get their way. They turn violent.
White people deputizing themselves in some position of authority to have jurisdiction over their life when they need to mind their blanking business.
I don't think it's our responsibility to be tasked with destroying and dismantling the racial oppression that's against us. That's just saying we're more at fault than the white people who constructed this system.
Look, a lot of folks in that Capitol insurrection, some of these folks were white women. Is America ready to face the fact that some of those folks look like people they have elevated and put on a pedestal of being untouchable? What we didn't see were enough voices willing to point out the deeper, festering rot that's plagued this nation since it was born. People who neither discovered nor built this land have been led to believe that America is theirs and theirs alone. And so here we are, celebrating the birth of a nation, independence for white men.
Does that sound like Rwanda? They're just freely saying it with no resistance. This is evil, folks. Not all, but most blacks are put on earth today to bring in evil. Look who's doing it. Get the black woman and these weak black men with mama's natures, you can bring in evil. And the white man just silent about it. Can you imagine, just imagine if you can't believe me, if those were white reporters saying the same thing, exactly the same words about black people. What do you think would be happening right now? Oh, hate is reminding me, oh, thank you, Nick. The first black guy who talked with the wild white hair, he's been on the JLP show at least a couple of times. Ellie Misto. Amazing. Thank you, Hate. Thank you, Nick. Y'all, I'm warning you. Evil, you can't play with evil. You have to overcome evil. Anger is evil. And you just see a perfect example right there. That was from MSNBC. That was on TV. On TV. And It's just like in Rwanda, it was on radio. And one black tribe ended up destroying it. They were jealous of the other black tribe, and they destroyed them. As black people are jealous of white people today. It's envy because they have hatred in their heart. They're jealous of the whites. They believe whites are superior to them. It's a spiritual battle. And it has nothing, what's so interesting about it has nothing to do with color. But in their mind, the darkness of their imagination, they have been convinced that it does. I want to play that soundbite again. Maybe you missed it. But what I want to do is go back to peace work first and show you this genocide took place because no one said to the host or anyone else that owned that radio station, hey, this is wrong. It's not true. This is from Peace Work. Watch this.
"20 years ago this year, there was a genocide in Rwanda. The Hutu majority, who controlled the government, set out to kill off the Tutsi, who made up less than 20% of the population. Roughly 70% of the Tutsi were killed, almost 1 million people.
Something like 92% of people in Rwanda actually witnessed the genocide. They saw people being chopped up.
The role of the propaganda was huge. It's actually one of the steps of preparing a genocide.
You know, there are all kinds of other signs. The use of propaganda that was being used on the radio, where the Tutsi were referred to as cockroaches, and people would use euphemisms like, we are going to work, to mean we are going to kill.
Amazing. Who is primarily under attack today? White people. They've been robbed, raped, murdered, home invasions, carjacking, knocked out. And not just in the hood, but in the Beverly Hills and around the country, in the valleys, in the suburbs. This is evil, folks. And it ain't going to stop until you say, no, we ain't putting up with it no more. It's done. So you just heard what happened, right? Here is happening in America from the blacks, liberal whites, and liberal Jews to the white people in their own land. This woman, one of the women said that it's not their land. It is their land. They founded this land and created the white men there and created the greatest country on this side of heaven. And liberals hate the people who created the country and let them come here to live. What the? This is from MSNBC. It's happening now, not yesterday. I mean, not 20 years ago, even though it's been going on that long. It's full blown now. It's there. Watch this.
This is literally what conservative white folks do when they don't get their way. They turn violent.
White people deputizing themselves in some position of authority to have jurisdiction over their life when they need to mind their blanking business.
I don't think it's our responsibility to be tasked with destroying and dismantling the racial oppression that's against us. That's just saying we're more at fault than the white people who constructed this system.
Look, a lot of folks in that Capitol insurrection, some of these folks were white women. Is America ready to face the fact that some of those folks look like people they have elevated and put on a pedestal of being untouchable? What we didn't see were enough voices willing to point out the deeper, festering rot that's plagued this nation since it was born. People who neither discovered nor built this land have been led to believe that America is theirs and theirs alone. And so here we are, celebrating the birth of a nation, independence for white men.
Amazing. If white people believed that this nation was theirs and theirs alone, they would have shipped blacks back to Africa already. She's lying. Liberals hate good. It ain't about the race. They killed blacks, committed a genocide upon other blacks in Rwanda. It ain't about the race. It's not about male or female. It's about good versus evil. And every human being that's born through the woman is evil until you're born of the Spirit of the Father. Your heart must change from anger to love. And you can't change it. You just need to see you don't have it. And it will change. You need a pure heart. Salvation is of the heart. Salvation is of the heart. You must be born of the heart. Otherwise, you're going to have fear. And it's no one else's fault but yours as an adult. And to blame someone else is evil. You're weak.